GoPros are action cameras, but that doesn't mean they can't be incredibly cinematic. Today, I'm going to be giving you 5 tips and tricks to make your GoPro footage look as cinematic as humanly possible. Alright, now as a lot of you out there know, I was just on location in the Bahamas where I was filming a lot of shark dives and a lot of stuff around the local marina, and I got a few comments and even 2 emails from you guys asking how I was able to get my GoPro footage to look so cinematic and which settings I was using. And that's the #1 question people ask with GoPro cameras. How can I make it look as cinematic as humanly possible? Now I know we've all seen those GoPro highlight reel videos or people just making cinematic content with their GoPro cameras, and you think to yourself, something is wrong here. There's no way they captured that all on a GoPro. My GoPro footage doesn't look anything like that. What's the deal? And that answer can be a little complicated. It has to do with your settings. It also has to do with the shot types and also just the basic tips and tricks that they know along the way while filming. Now I'm making this video for all of you out there who kind of want to step away from the traditional standard GoPro travel videos, that kind of thing, and you want to be in that upper tier of GoPro creators. This video is for you guys. So without further ado, let's dive right into this video. Now tip #1 is to use the right resolution and frame rate. When it comes to capturing cinematic video, it's no secret that your settings are critically important. However, even more important than that is your resolution and frame rate. However, when it comes to resolution, you need to be filming in either 4 or 5.3K. You do not want to go below 4K because of course the higher the resolution, the more cinematic your video is going to look. Either one of those works fine. I usually stick in 4K because it does save a little bit of battery life. However, when it comes to frame rate, this is when you have a little bit more options. If you're just going for cinematic video, I recommend 30 or 60 frames per second. Now I usually film in 120 FPS, but that's just because all the activities that I do are pretty high action, whether scuba diving or filming animals, something high action like that. So I need to be able to use slow motion, and that high frame rate is able to give it to me. However, Hollywood movies are shot in 24 frames per second because that lower frame rate makes it look a lot more crisp. So I would recommend using 30 frames per second. However, if you do want to have some slow motion, then I would go with 60 because slow motion is probably the #1 thing you can do to make any shot look cinematic. Now trick #2 is to use the lighting to your advantage. Okay, so I'm gonna take 2 shots from the same location and you guys can decide which one is the more cinematic shot. So the first shot is just gonna be this slow, standard, and still walking shot coming towards the creek over here. I'm gonna transition up to get the sun into my shot to make it look a little more cinematic, and then pan down to the creek embankment. Personally, I think it's pretty obvious that the second shot is more cinematic because the sun really makes it look a lot better. Now, using the lighting isn't always just about getting the sun in your shot. If you want to get a shot of a person walking or just someone solo standing there, you have 2 options. You can either use the sun behind them, which creates more of a cinematic, eerie feel, or the standard, of course, is to have the sun directly onto them so they're well lit. Either way, lighting can make or break your shot, and if you use it the right way, it can create such a cinematic look, which is why you need to use it to your advantage. Now trick #3 is probably the most simple one, and that is just to turn your sharpness on high on your GoPro. I'm pretty sure when you buy a GoPro, it comes with your sharpness set on low. However, you are going to want to transition that up to high. It's just going to allow for you to capture some better color. Your video is going to look a lot more crisp, which is going to result in a more cinematic look. Trick #4 is to use moving shots. Now, anytime you capture a moving shot over a still one, it's automatically going to look more cinematic, especially if it's done right. Now, when I say moving shot, I'm talking about a more slow and steady movement. Because if you're just moving your camera around really spastic, really fast, it's actually going to dwindle down the quality of your shot. So you do want to watch out for that. However, a good example of this, one of my favorite moving shots to get, is the kind of half circle shot around an object. So look at this shot, for example. For some reason, if you want to film this tree, the half circle is going to work great. You're going to start from this side of the tree and kind of slowly slowly move to the other side, creating a 180 half circle shape to create a really cinematic look. However, another good one to get is the close to ground or water shot. Getting a shot of whatever you're trying to capture close to the ground while moving is gonna create a really cool look. And moving on to trick number 5, that's all about capturing good color in your video. Now this trick is a pretty hefty one if you ask me. There's a lot that goes into it, including post-production while editing. However, let's dive into your settings first. If you do have the Hero 11, you are gonna wanna turn 10-bit color on. It's a new feature on this camera that's not seen on previous models, and although it doesn't make a world of a difference, it's a great feature to have, so you need to have it turned on. Like we touched on earlier, having your sharpness set on high is gonna allow for a little bit of better color, but another good way to control the color that your video gets is by adjusting your white balance. Now this especially works if you're gonna be filming underwater. This basically just replaces the need for any dive filter at all. Anytime I go diving in the ocean, I am gonna crank up the red channel about 1 to 2, maybe even 3 notches, which really helps the color pop in my video. However, if you're on land, you have a ton of freedom to work with your white balance. Alright, now let's move on to the part that you can do while editing. Every single shot you've ever seen on my YouTube channel has been color graded in some way. Now I do want to get this misconception out of the way. You don't need some fancy computer or editing software to adjust your video's color greatly. It might sound a little silly at first, however, simple editing softwares like iMovie actually give you a lot of freedom when it comes to editing your color. Color is one of the things I take most importantly when I'm making my content, and it's something that you should definitely keep in mind if you want to create the most cinematic look possible. Alright guys, now I hope that you found all the tips and tricks in this video to be really helpful. I really wanted to make a video like this to give you guys some help in creating the best footage possible. But that is going to wrap up today's video, but before you go, make sure to smash that like button. Comment down below which settings work best for you and if you're happy with your GoPro. And most importantly, subscribe with notifications turned on so you never miss out on awesome videos just like this one. I'm Ray Tiller, and I'll see you on the next video.